Welcome. This is Debra Ann Clement, and thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Shortcut to the Soul. So today I have a guest, and it's a special guest, Patty Kamson. And Patty and I have known each other for quite some time. And Patty is an astrologer, but she's an intuitive astrologer. And you would never know it to look at her, but she has nearly 20 years of experience under her belt. And she has worked thousands of clients, helping them to reach for something bigger, something better. And let's see, she uses all of her gifts. That's what I want to say, because Patty is multi-talented. And so she uses all of her gifts to interpret the chart. And Patty has studied, let me just tell you a little bit about her background. She's a graduate of Clearsight, which is a school of energetic medicine and intuitive healing. And she is also a member of the International Society of Astrological Research. And she's certified by them in astrological counseling and also in ethics certification. Very important, right? And Patty also belongs to the Organization for Professional Astrologers. She's a California gal. She writes astrology forecasts. She has an international clientele, celebrities, attorneys, doctors, all kinds of successful business people who consult with her on all areas of their life when they need guidance, when they want to just check in, and of course, hey, when they feel stuck. And Patty has also, she's hosted an internet radio show. She's spoken at various seminars and conventions. And she's also live every week on Facebook. She's got a live Facebook show, Stars and Cards, and which she'll tell you a little bit more about. But you can check out her website, pattykamson.com. And that's Kamson. It'll be in the show notes. Okay, so if you want the website, and you can read about her services and her readings. And now, Patty, so welcome. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Debra. That was a great introduction. I'm so happy to be here and talk about charts.
Yeah, we are going to talk about fame in the chart. And, over the years, I've had clients come to me, and, I remember the first one that came to me and said, they wanted to know, would they be famous? And so do you get a lot of that?
I do. Ever so often, people, especially when you do an open call reading where there's just people and you're open to asking one question. And that's usually one of them. Will I be famous? Am I going to get that acting gig? Am I going to be the famous singer? Yes.
It's interesting. And so fame in the chart is interesting because it shows in different ways, right? It shows in so many different ways. And so Patty and I are we each pick some charts, right? And yes, that we want to talk about some famous people and the different ways it shows. And well, we're just going to talk about the charts. And so they'll find out what we're going to tell them, right? I'm not going to give it all away. So let us start. And I want to start with your first pick.
So my first pick, of course, because it's the most famous person, the most famous female is Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
And she has an amazing chart. So when I think of Oprah Winfrey, I think of her as a very, open and funny and good with people. But I also get like a stiffness with her. So I always thought she was an earth sign rising. But looking at her chart, she's actually at the last degree of Sag rising. So most of her first house is Capricorn. And I really feel that with her. Did you get that feeling for Oprah?
It's a very grounded. She's that's what I would just say. So I would use the word in the ways I felt she was very grounded.
Yes. So when we're looking at fame in the chart, and obviously so many people can interpret that in different ways because some may think it's money, some may think it's being well known, or a combination of the two. We look at the 10th house. We look at the planets in the 10th house as well as the first house, which is the ascendant, and the first house and those planets and the rulers of those houses. So, I'm looking at Oprah's chart, and I'm looking at her sun sign and the ruler Capricorn and Sagittarius. And she has that Venus Sun, what do they call it, a Cassimi?
Yes.
Yes. And it's when when two planets are together and they're so close, it's like the sun, they say the sun burns them.
Right.
So she has that Venus Sun Cassimi, which is beautiful, which gives her charm, and her inner beauty that just shines through. So that, you could say, is an indicator of at least being someone that people flock to or people just naturally enjoy being with. And then the ruler of her chart, Jupiter, is in her 6th house, and it's in Gemini. Gemini is the talker. Gemini is the messenger. Gemini is the one who wants to share, and it's in the 6th house of being of service. So you can say, that's where her gifts are. That's where her fame lies, in being of service and being the talker. How'd I put that together, girl?
Wow. Yes. And, the other thing I want to mention with her Jupiter, because it is her chart ruler, and her Jupiter's retrograde.
Yes.
And so, I always say, to me, Jupiter retrograde, to me, it's buried treasure. And I always feel that people who are born with Jupiter retrograde, what I find in the charts over the years is these are people who usually have some type of a gift, intuitive gift, a gift to heal. And something comes later in life. And I always say with Jupiter retrograde, I feel there's life before 40 and life after 40, more or less. And it's not that a person isn't successful until they're 40, but it seems to me that after 40 comes, it's as if they're a rose bush. And this is how I describe it. And there's just been one bud their whole life that just has not opened. And sometime after 40, it starts to loosen. And once that particular bud blossoms, that bloom just never fades. It just keeps on giving. And so it is in that house of service.
Yes.
For her.
Yes.
Yeah. And, all those, the Capricorn being in the 1st house, certainly there is that, that to me is the groundedness. And I'm just going to say, the North Node is in Capricorn.
She has her North Node in Capricorn, and then also the ruler of her career and her most public area of her chart, the midheaven, is Libra. So it's Venus, which is, so close to the sun. So she definitely has strong indicators to be in the public eye and to be so-called famous, which is such an understatement for Oprah.
And honestly, having that North Node in the 1st house in Capricorn, as far as I look at as far as the soul, did she certainly come in here? Capricorn is the top of the food chain. I mean, it's about expertise. And it is about business. And at the end of the day, she is a businesswoman.
Oh, definitely.
Right? And that's
a strong businesswoman.
Yeah. She's a strong business, and she's got that, was it Saturn and Neptune in the 10th?
Exactly. So, yes, she has a lot, she has more than 3 indicators of being famous, I would say.
That Neptune, and it's interesting with Neptune in the 10th, because Neptune is glamour. It can be scandal too, of course, but Neptune can really, besides film, obviously, right, the camera may be loving her and something like that, but Neptune in the 10th does add, I think, a bit of glamour.
It adds glamour, but it also shows that her biggest message is her spiritual base and sharing that. And also, there was a lot of scandal in her life. I mean, she was
that's
pregnant.
True. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that, but you're right. Yeah,
she's had a very interesting life. Another thing that stands out when you're looking at fame, if it's not clear cut in a chart, is the vertex. To me, that's kind of a spot where if you have a strong aspect, say when you're 21 or 16 or 45, and you have this amazing aspect with the vertex, which is like a real strong karmic placement. It's not a planet or anything. It's a mathematical spot. I feel that's like a huge indicator to open up a door that you thought wasn't there for fame and fortune.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point. I actually didn't know that. Just taught me something, Miss Patty.
We like that. So when I was looking at Oprah's chart, I was looking at things that kind of hit her vertex. So when she moved to Chicago, Baltimore, which kind of shifted her life, changed her whole life. That's where she started as a news reporter, which led to the famous composer Quincy Jones seeing her and wanting to cast her in the color purple. All these things were aspected by her vertex.
And vertex is very significant when it comes to relationships or certain contacts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is cool. Well, it's interesting because we talk about the transits, but, I'm looking at her chart, and that's why I mentioned her North Node, just because it's at, 23?
Yes.
And, Pluto is at 22 of Capricorn. So she's going to, right, Pluto is opposing her North Node. So it'll be interesting to see this year, even next year, what changes in her life or what evolves in her life.
Yes, because that Pluto on the South Node can be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I've had it because my South Node actually is at 8 degrees Capricorn.
Oh, so you've been there. You've done that. You can give Oprah advice.
Oh, no.
Well, with astrology, you can give advice with astrology. And but it will be interesting to see.
Yes, very interesting. For most Capricorns, with all this Capricornian energy just ganging up in the sky right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on between Saturn and Pluto.
Yes, we're living in very interesting times, as they say. And
we chose to be born during them.
Yes, we did.
What were we thinking? Ha ha ha! No, no, it's right. It's wonderful. No, it's absolutely. It's fascinating. It just really is. But fascinating also, Miss Oprah Winfrey. And I just wanted to see what else. Hold on, there's something else I noted in her chart. Oh, so money. I just wanted to touch on money for a moment with her. Mm-hmm. Just because, when you look at the chart, so the sign that rules her second house of income is Aquarius. And when you're looking at Aquarius, in terms of the house of money, it usually speaks to money, the income. It could be, someone could say it's not reliable, but it goes up, it goes down. It's not just working in getting a salary. And so when I was looking at that and saying, oh, and there's her Uranus, and where is it? But it's in her seventh house. Mm-hmm. And so seventh house speaking in respect to the public at large. Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting. I mean, Uranus is also, of course, right, television, radio. You've got that connection as well. But as far as where the income comes from in that respect, but then you look at her eighth house, right, which is the other side, and you've got Leo there. And where is the sun that rules eighth house money, which is really the money, right, from royalties, residuals, things of that matter, right, intellectual property, that type of money. And there's the ruler, right, in her second house of income. So nice connection there.
Yeah, she has a nice connection, and she has, Uranus and Mars in a great aspect. So, it's not fighting each other. So the ruler of her sun sign is strong.
It's very strong. It's very strong.
And outside the box. It's like she has lived a life that nobody could have ever expected or planned for her.
Oh, no, she exceeded, I'm sure, all expectations.
Yeah. Just from where she came from, just that Uranus energy, being an Aquarius, mm-hmm. they're going to be different. They're going to see life differently. They're going to have a different rhythm, a different beat. And Oprah definitely created her own path, her own rhythm, and people sure did flock and follow me being one of them.
No, and she has branched out into so many different areas, because that's the other thing. It wasn't, and I'm not taking away from anyone who someone is just an actor or someone is just a talk show host, but so many different areas. So yeah, and she did it, and she's certainly carved her own path. And that's Uranus. I mean, that's Aquarius. It's about independence, right? It's about freedom. It's about, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, I'm not getting married, and I haven't got married.
Nope.
I mean, that was her big thing. She's like, I don't need to be married, and she's kept to it.
Oh, she's kept a word on that.
Yep, she's definitely kept to that. So yeah, she has a lot of aspects and a lot of transits that have allowed doors to be open and opportunities presented. So she is a blessed soul.
Indeed, she is. So, shall we move on to another one?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right. So I'm going to start with my pick, and Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, my goodness.
So I absolutely, I love Gordon Ramsay's shows. Not all of them, but I am a huge fan. I do not miss Hell's Kitchen. Okay. Absolutely love Hell's Kitchen. You know, watch the MasterChef, but really just insanely love Hell's Kitchen. And
I'm with you.
And so that is why I thought, let me, he's a celebrity and he's famous, but it's a little bit different. I mean, certainly he's on television, but he is a celebrity chef. And so when you look at Gordon's chart, so he's got Aquarius on the midheaven. If we're looking at that 10th house, right? The fame. And there, as we said, what is Aquarius on the 10th? Well, sometimes it could be an astrologer, but not Gordon, at least not that we know of. But that Aquarius on the 10th is very much someone whose career, there's something different, there's something distinct. It's just different. And it could be a little bit even polarizing. And when you look at his chart and you look at that 10th house ruler, which is Uranus, it's conjunct his moon. It happens to be in Virgo, which is an interesting point simply because, when people think about food and restaurants, I know a lot of people, Taurus loves to eat it, so does Cancer. And we tend to think about Cancer, right, with the domestic. But Virgo is actually the sign. Virgo rules restaurants. Virgo rules chefs. So here's this, Uranus is in Virgo. It is conjunct the moon. And the moon does speak to the public. It's in the 5th house, which is entertainment. It's right besides things we're passionate, but it is entertainment. He's got Pluto connected there as well, because he's got this nice little, it's a very powerful conjunction when you've got Uranus and Pluto, two extreme energies, right? Here they are combined in Virgo and conjunct the moon. So he's when I say controversial, polarizing. It's a polarizing figure. People either love Gordon Ramsay or they hate Gordon Ramsay. There's very little bit in the middle, right middle ground. And what is he known for? His colorful language. That's the way I'm going to put it, right? I mean, this constant, barrage. And he's also, the things he says, for anyone who's watched the show, I mean, he could be so cutting, right? So nasty, and there's all that really, Virgo can be, let's face it, Virgo can be really sharp. Sharp tongued. And so when I looked at the energy, but where is the field is maybe, let's say, the cooking, because he's, right, he's a renowned chef, but it is in the house of entertainment. And so that's where he's known. Besides the restaurants, of course, all around the world, but even that, what is Hell's Kitchen about? It's a cooking competition, and what does the winner get? Oh, they get to work for him, as an executive chef, right? I mean, that's the prize, which, I guess you can wonder about.
It's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. And also that moon, only because the moon is connected to the 10th house, right, to the fame. And in his chart, because Gordon has an intercepted horoscope, if you use, Placidus, which I've used. And so the sign of Cancer is on house number 2 and house number 3. And so certainly that brings in money, right? Certainly brings in money. And that 3rd house, though, having that 2nd and 3rd house, I'm just saying duplicated, and in the 5th, 3rd house is also connected to things like besides communications, distribution systems, and second house, right, tangible assets. And there he's got all those, right, now he does videos too, but it's, all his cookware, all those things that he, the product lines that he sells. And so it's just another source of income.
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay is something else. I love him. And when you first said you're going to look at Gordon Ramsay, I first thought, what? You? Really? I didn't even think Gordon was on your radar. I thought that was just me in my little private, quiet, secret watching Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen. My guilty pleasure. But I always thought, oh my gosh, he must be an Aries because he has such a big old head. But then I learned he's Scorpio.
Yes.
So there is a Mars connection at least. But again, he has a similar aspect as Oprah with that Venus, Sun. For him, they're both at 15 degrees Scorpio.
Yes. And they're in Scorpio, but they're in the 6th house. It's service. And again, 6th house. It's the Virgo house. You're talking about, again, your chefs, your restaurants. So it's interesting. And
being of service.
And being of service. And then you look at Neptune, right? Because you've got the Sun-Venus conjunction at 15 Scorpio. And there's Neptune at 21 of Scorpio. So now you bring in Neptune. And Neptune very often can be an influence for fame, a fame indicator. And so, of course, is Uranus. But the Uranus is a little bit, and it's interesting, and I'm just going to say this because you're surprised that I like Gordon Ramsay. But I do, and a lot of people sometimes are surprised, but I always say, in my chart, my Uranus opposes my midheaven. So I've got this Uranus energy going on. So I appreciate it. And so I don't care how much when he throws them out of the kitchen, like, I love it. It's like, I would love to sit in the restaurant one night when they're having a service. I would be there like waiting, like, come on, throw them out, yell at them. Yeah. I know, right? But it's true. But it's I cannot deny it.
Well, another thing that stands out for Gordon is, he's a Gemini rising, so he's a talker, and then the ruler of his chart is Mercury in Sagittarius, which is, I'm going to say, everything, any kind of way.
There's no filter.
There's no filter. And then Mars being in the mix, because his Mars is in Virgo, which is the ruler of Mercury. So he definitely is expressing his natal chart.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And the last point that I'm just going to make is the duplicated signs, Cancer on the 2nd and 3rd, brings income connected to things that either speaking or writing, like, let's say, books. And the 8th and the 9th are duplicated with Capricorn on the 8th and the 9th. And so the 9th house is publishing, the 8th house is royalties. And so it's all, you see where all of, I'm going to say that's the source of where his money comes from. Again, there's nothing here that's saying, oh, this guy's just, he's spent his life, getting some type of a salary. No.
And, you'd be surprised, when you're first learning astrology and you look at a chart to see where most of the energies lie, it's all beneath. All his planets are mostly beneath except for Saturn. So you would think he'd want to be behind the scenes, especially being a Scorpio as well. But no,
not with the moon conjunct Uranus.
Yes.
Really, that's a big factor in a lot of charts when you're looking, certainly as fame, and anyone in the public eye who's polarizing, just look at the chart. Uranus is going to be, prominent in some way. And so he's got the moon Uranus conjunction, which also can be quite excitable. And at the same time, the moon is conjunct Pluto. So there's this, I'm going to say this intensity about him as well. But that sharpness of not missing, he doesn't miss a beat. He's never at a loss for words. And that is the Mercury, in Sag. And I always says, I have Mercury in Sagittarius. And so to me, and I'll be honest, and I'll say at times it's like verbal diarrhea. It's like, we don't, I like to say, I think more before I speak because I have a Libra moon, right? But Gordon doesn't have that. He's got that sharp, and it is, people with with that Virgo moon, because they do tend to be judgmental. They do tend to be critical, and they can be. Now, whether it's positive or negative, it's great. You know, I always say we need Virgo. They're the ones to say, listen, you better see that tiny little hole, you better plug that up, or, you know, the whole bridge is going to go down or something. So we need them. But yeah, but that's why the fame, it's not always obvious. It's not always that Jupiter in the 10th. You know that, right? The Jupiter in the 10th is a good place to start if you want to be famous, but it's not the only thing.
Most definitely. And he is a very sexy man. And that Scorpio and Venus Sun conjunction, I think, helps. It's like a snake who's very beautiful. It lures you in, and then it goes, and bites you.
It seduces you. Yeah, it's very seductive. But I do think Uranus, honestly, I think Uranus can give a lot of charisma. Again, is it your brand of charisma? I think that's very often the question with Uranus, honestly. And because, you know, I do watch a lot of cooking shows, mostly competitions. You know, I'm not really interested in learning, you know, how to make something. I'm a Capricorn. I guess it comes out this way. I love the competition. But I will say, is all the ones, there's no other show like Hell's Kitchen.
Yep, there's no other. And I must say, I'm with you on it. I enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure.
That is my guilty pleasure. So let us move on, to your next pick.
Okay.
Here we go.
So my next pick is Miss Beyonce. The Beehive. I hope you guys are listening. So Miss Beyonce, oh my goodness. She has an amazing chart. She has Libra rising, and it's, you know, we don't have it totally confirmed. It's not an A+, A1 rating.
Right.
But I did a lot of research and did comparisons because there were people who had a Leo rising and versus the Libra rising. So, you know, just after doing a little research, she definitely feels Venusian. Did I say that right?
You did, and I agree with you. I agree with you, absolutely.
And she's, with this chart, she has a Pluto-Venus kind of conjunct right on her ascendant. So she's beautiful, she's alluring, but yet sexy and passionate and powerful. So she definitely has a strong presence with all that energy on her ascendant. Her moon, and then she has Mars in the 10th house.
Yeah.
So she has a strong Mars, and then her ascendant, which is about people's perception of her, is very powerful. So you can see quickly that this is a person who is going to gain prominence in her life, for good or for bad. I mean, it could go both ways. But with that Pluto on the ascendant, people are going to know you. Would you agree?
When Pluto's on the ascendant, you could have your back to them. Somebody walks in the and you feel the energy. You know they're there, right? You know that they're there.
Yeah.
And that Mars, and her Mars is in Leo. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I love Mars in Leo. It's so bold, it's so dramatic, and I always say they don't just get mad. A lot of times they get like indignant. I don't know if that's true of her, but it is in the 10th house, which certainly shows a lot of ambition, a lot of drive, definitely connected to entertainment, and it is conjunct the North Node. And so, you know, when I look at that 10th house, is she supposed to be in, I say at the top, if not, and if she was in a different field, let's say she was not an entertainer, whatever it is in business, it's aiming for the top. And of course, she does have a business, right? I'm just thinking, she has many businesses. What am I saying? And so, yeah, that shows to me very strongly there. And the moon is conjunct Uranus. So,
again. Yeah.
And that's why I say that Uranus factor when it comes to fame, but hers is in Scorpio. And I will say, even with that Pluto on the ascendant, because I feel like she smolders. You know, she really does. Very sultry.
Oh, yes.
And she's got that Moon-Uranus conjunction. And that is, again, could be a little bit, you know, in her personal life. I imagine when she gets pissed, she gets really pissed. But, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
But look at that.
And when she loves hard.
And her 10th house, so we've got Cancer on the midheaven. And so there's that moon, and it's conjunct Uranus. And that's why I say when it comes to, to the fame, and again, her style, her performances, it's different. It's definitely, who do you compare her to, right?
Tina Turner.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's about it. Yeah, she definitely stood out. There was always just something about her that stood out of the pack in her group. But I never realized, you're pointing it out to me, especially now looking at Gordon Ramsay's chart, about this Moon-Uranus conjunction.
Oh, yeah.
How powerful that is.
And her moon rules the 10th house. Uranus rules the 5th house. So there you've got the entertainment, the performance. And like I said, it's in a this sexy sign of Scorpio. And there it is in that second house, which also, besides we talk about money, but for me, I think about second house because it's the Taurus house. And so in terms of, I want to say business or being business oriented, Scorpio on the second house, moon in there, Uranus, I think that's pretty good. I really do. I'm looking at that.
Yeah, it's really good. One of the things about Beyonce and her persona is that she's not a big talker. And so, she's a woman of few words. And when I look at her chart in the 3rd house, she has Neptune in there. So she gets her message out through her song, through her writing, instead of just the obvious way of sitting down and doing interviews and talking and all of that. So I found that very interesting.
And, she's got Mercury in the 12th. It's wide. It's just about 7 degrees. But if you go that wide, it's a Mercury-Saturn conjunction. So she says what she means. She means what she says, and she doesn't waste words.
Yes, I have that exact same aspect, but I have mine in Pisces.
Okay, but is yours in the 12th? I don't remember your chart.
No, mine is in the 5th.
Okay, because I was going to say to you, because I think of being in the 12th also has an influence there as well, being in the Pisces house.
Yes, and mine's in Pisces, so it's similar.
Well, you two could be girlfriends then.
Maybe one day.
Right?
One day, Debra.
And the thing I was saying, when she first came on the scene, and I thought she was a Libra. Okay, I thought she was a Libra. That's why I said the Venusian, and of course she's got all these Libra planets. And so when I saw her birthday, I had looked at her chart, and I saw that she was a Virgo. And for all the Earth signs, I was like, especially Virgo, because let's be honest, Virgo gets a very, a bad rap in the zodiac a lot, and
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, right? And so here it is, and there she's a Virgo, and that's why I say, and also Raquel Welch. I'm just saying, older, but I say those Earth signs, but those Virgos. See, those Virgos can sizzle.
They do, and didn't Forbes magazine or something? They did a survey, and who are the richest people in the world out of all the zodiac? They say Virgos.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I would have thought maybe Cancers, believe it or not.
Yeah, there was a survey or a study done, and it came out that Virgos were the most wealthiest were Virgos.
Well, maybe because they're so good at accounting or numbers or something. Yeah,
maybe they're so undercover. They're just getting the work done without having to get all the accolades. Maybe,
but that is really interesting. I didn't know that. But she has got quite the chart, and the fact that with all of that 12th house planets, because she's got Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus in the 12th. And so when I think of the 12th house, right, the Pisces house, Neptune, very much, I want to sort of say chameleon-like in a way. And I mean that in a positive sense. And just when I think of her costumes, just the performance.
Definitely. Yes. She reinvents herself, and she says, she's two people. So when she's at home with her family, with her friends, she's one way. And then when she hits the stage, she's Sasha Fierce. She breaks out and becomes a whole nother person.
And that Pluto on the ascendant, by the way, though, Pluto is what? It's about reinvention, rebirth.
Yes, and it's about power and control.
And it rules her second house of income. She earns her money. She earns her way.
Yes.
And it's conjunct Venus, so there's a lot going on right there.
Yeah, she was definitely meant to be able to support herself and make money. If, she was guided and had all the other stuff, but her chart is there and allows her to have that experience in this lifetime.
Well, when you look at Venus being the chart ruler and representing her, right, because Libra's rising, and it also rules the 8th house, the royalties, that type of money, and it's conjunct Pluto, which rules the second house of income. And that's what I say, she makes her money, and of course, partnership makes money right successfully through there as well.
Smart girl. Smart girl.
Smart girl, beautiful girl.
Yes.
All right. So I have one more chart.
Yes.
And I chose Dolly Parton. And I love Dolly Parton. And I love that she's Capricorn.
Of course.
Well, because you know what, listen, growing up, especially being a Capricorn and at my age, you'd hear Capricorn and this is what we would hear. Oh, Richard Nixon. Okay. Oh, Capricorns, they're dull, they're boring, they're this, they're that. And so, as I got older and of course got into astrology, and sometimes people will still say, oh, but Capricorn is so, conservative. It's so, and I say, yeah, that David Bowie and Rod Stewart and Elvis Presley and Dolly Parton. Oh my God, they are just so darn boring. So I love Dolly.
And Michelle Obama.
And Michelle Obama, how could I forget her? But I was thinking about the ones that are a little bit more, extravagant in their look.
Yes.
Really? But
well, she showed her arms, girl. She showed her arms.
Listen,
Michelle did.
Hey, if I had arms like that, I'd be showing mine all the time, too.
Yeah.
Maybe in another lifetime, if I'm not born with a lazy Libra moon, who knows? I might exercise. But for now, so Dolly Parton. So Gemini is the ruler of her 10th house. And she's got in the 10th, really prominent, conjunct the midheaven. There's Uranus.
Yes.
So what's interesting about Uranus, and I wanted to say her Uranus is in Gemini. And so she's also, she's not just a singer, she's a singer-songwriter. And I'm going to give a little list here because I had done an article on this once. So David Bowie, Freddie Mercury, Paul McCartney, Joni Mitchell, Rod Stewart, Carly Simon, and there's a few others that I'm forgetting, all born with Uranus in Gemini. So it's just a lot of talent, I'm just going to say, to that little mini generation. But there's Uranus in the 10th house, conjunct the midheaven. So when you have Uranus in the 10th, and especially the closer it is to the MC, very often the person can come off, they could be polarizing. And when she first came out, we're going years ago, I think she was like on Hee Haw or something. And you're probably too young to remember that. But, there were people who thought like, oh my God. And, either just sort of initially you loved her. She's come a long way where now I think she's pretty much universally loved, and certainly for all the good work she's done. But when she came out, again, I want to sort of say the extreme of her look, the wigs, the makeup, right? Completely her own style. And I'm going to say different and unique, right? Compared to the rest.
Definitely.
So right off the bat, and her North Node is in the 10th house as well. Now it's in Gemini, but again, it's in that 10th house, that public, I would say the public arena, but the house certainly of fame. And Neptune is in her first house. Now it's close to the second. So I do want to acknowledge that it's not on the ascendant, which is Virgo. She's got Virgo rising, but Neptune is in that first house, which does still help. I'm just going to say with a little bit of, I'm going to use the word glamour. And if I look at her money, because I always love to see how when you see entertainers, where their money comes from. So second house in Dolly's chart has Libra. And so it's ruled by Venus, and it's in the 5th house of entertainment. It is conjunct the sun, right?
Again.
5th house. Yes. And what does the sun rule in her chart? Well, it rules her 12th house. And 12th house, it's associated with writing, with film, with acting. She's certainly done some of that. But the big fame factor to me, just seeing right off the bat, looking at that Uranus at the top of the chart is really big. And in her chart, it trines that Neptune. Okay, so she's got this beautiful connection between her first and her 10th house. And, Neptune rules her 7th. And having the public, public at large, if you're going to be in entertainment, listen, these are the people who buy your records or CDs as it is now, and, buy the tickets for the concerts.
Yeah, she has an amazing chart for having all that earth, keeping her, because there's such a flamboyance about her, and that's that Uranus at the top of her chart.
Yeah.
And she was way ahead of her time, because now most women in entertainment now, it's the wigs, it's the butt implants and the boobs, and it's just so extreme. And she was doing that, back in the late 50s, early 60s.
Oh, absolutely. And she always was clear. She intended to keep doing it. She intended to keep looking good. And her chart ruler, so she's got Virgo rising. So her chart ruler is Mercury, it's in Capricorn, and it's in the 4th house. And technically it's a 4th house Mercury. It is right minutes away, quite frankly, from going into the 5th house, but it is in the 4th. And the thing is, what we see the Dolly Parton, right, that makes the appearances, but she's actually, in many ways, her private life, she's a very private person.
Extremely. And all that, the Virgo rising, Gemini at the top of her chart with Uranus, that's how she made her money. She's made most of her money from royalties, from writing for other people.
And she's also done, and the other thing with that 5th house, only because we say, right, it's entertainment, and Dollywood, right?
Yes.
Yep. Dollywood, and she does a lot of good, she really does a lot of good works, and there's that Aquarius on the 6th house of service.
And it's the, books, the Gemini.
Yes.
She does a library. She's collected or given away millions of books.
Yeah. No, she's done really tremendous good works. And her moon is in Virgo. And that's why when it comes to even, I'm going to say to business, she's got that Capricorn sun, but that Virgo moon is just, to me, is sharp. It's just really sharp.
Yeah, she's extremely sharp. And she's still doing it at her age. How old is she? 46?
She was born in
46.
Oh, I stink in math. Don't ask
73.
me. Okay, she's
73. Or she is 73.
She is 73. No, she's 73. And she's still at the performing, and she's still doing all these good work. So so that's why. But the Uranus is a big player in a lot of charts when it comes to fame. And we're talking about fame today, really celebrity famous because people can be famous. It's more like notorious. Everyone knows who Charles Manson is, right? So there's or murder victims, and it's the Black Dahlia, John Benet Ramsey. They become famous because of events. But we're talking about, like I like to say, the happy fame, the happy and rich fame.
Yes, it's like I said in the beginning. Is it famous because you're just known, or is it
exactly
money, success from money? And I think these days it's about money.
Yeah, but it was just it's so interesting because, like I said, the charts are all different, but you see these.
There's some similar stuff.
Yeah, and with Oprah, she's talking about a Uranus. She's Aquarius. Right off the bat, you start right there with Aquarius.
Well, if you look at this, there are major talk show hosts, and they all have strong Aquarius. So there's Ellen DeGeneres,
right?
Oprah Winfrey, and Wendy Williams is an Aquarius rising.
Oh, I didn't. You know what? I didn't realize that. I did not realize she had Aquarius rising.
Yeah.
Well, as a nation, we love our Aquarians because the nation has an Aquarius moon.
Yes, we love them.
Right? It's a good start.
Steve Harvey, we can call him a fake Aquarius. He's Capricorn, but we'll just say because, Saturn is a co-ruler of Aquarius.
Oh, don't take that away from me, that Capricorn. Come on now. No, but it is, that's true. That is true.
But he's a successful talk show host.
No, and I will say, also said with Oprah, Uranus is in the seventh. It's in an angular house. So that's why, never underestimate Uranus, really. It's not always just 15 minutes like of fame. It's like, there. And Jupiter, I find, is more likely to be 15 minutes of fame, believe it or not, in some ways, than Uranus.
I would agree.
Right?
Uranus can be that explosion that opens up the opportunity for you to really walk through and shine. I guess that would be the metaphor I would give.
And the thing about all four of these people that we've mentioned, they're all, I'm going to say, personalities. They're distinct, they're unique. And that's what I say, that's that Uranus energy, wherever it comes through in different areas in the chart. But it goes a long way. And that's why I feel, Neptune is very much about glamour. Uranus, I think, is charisma. I think it's the it factor. I really do. I think Uranus has the it factor to it.
I would go with that.
Thank you.
I like that. I like that.
Well, this is
they all have the Venus Sun conjunction.
That's something else. Yeah, that is something else. That's right. You know what? I was thinking one of them didn't, but they all did. Except Beyonce. Well, she's got Venus Pluto though, so
Yes, right on the ascendant.
Yes, so she's good. She's good.
Yes.
But it is something. But it is common. And the interesting is when we pulled the charts, and it was just really random. I said, okay, pick two. I'll pick two, and right. So it was cool. This is fun.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, this is fun. So let me just ask you before we wrap up, if you would just tell my listeners about your stars and cards on Facebook, because it's live and they can ask questions, but I'm going to let you tell them.
So, my business partner and I have created a Facebook Live show. It's called Stars and Cards with Patty Kamson and Debra Chadwick. And we do an hour every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please, all you listeners, help me get Miss Debra Clement on my show.
I promise I'm coming.
But we do an hour. We have hot topics. We discuss what's going on astrologically in the sky. Debra Chadwick reads regular playing cards, and I do the astrology. And we have special guests from all walks, from Reiki healers to Chinese astrologers to other astrologers. And we take one question readings. And it's just a lot of fun. So I'd love for you guys to come and join us every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time and have a question ready and just be present to maybe learn something or laugh or all of the above.
And all they have to do is go to Facebook, and the page is Stars and Cards, right?
Yes, it's at Stars and Cards.
Okay.
And it's on Facebook.
So even if you don't like Facebook that much, go on Facebook on Tuesday nights and watch the show, because it's live and it's fun and it's very, I've watched some of them, and I promise I am gonna get there. She's laughing, but I am, and now that she said that, she says, "Oh, she's got to come on now, right?"
You found me out.
Oh, you're Pisces. You could be a little manipulative. I get that. I get that. But by all means, visit Patty's website, pattykamson.com. And you can see about her readings. You can read testimonials and see everything that this girl has going on. And you're on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram at, I don't even know my name. That's awful.
Because that's where you're always posting.
It's Patty Astro.
Okay.
Patty K. Astro.
I was just going to go look and check otherwise.
My kids helped me make up the name because I was like, what do I say? How do I do it? So it's Patty K. Astro.
Okay, so on Instagram. And you can follow Patty there on Instagram as well. All right.
Thank you, Debra.
No, so listen, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to thank you, and I'm going to thank everyone who's listening. And until next time, may Jupiter's blessings be your constant companion.
We hope you've enjoyed this presentation. To schedule a consultation, please visit DebraClementAstrologer.com.